If you have ever been a woman who felt like your entire character was put on trial just because you refused to shrink, this one is for you. My name is Priya Shah-Ramanathan, and I need to tell you about the day a judge read my research paper out loud in a packed courtroom while my husband sat there insisting I was mentally unstable. I'm a data scientist. Numbers are my love language. Patterns, models, regression analysis, that's where my brain feels calm. I built my career here in the Pacific Northwest, in Seattle, where the air always smells like rain and coffee and ambition. And I built it quietly, late nights at the kitchen table, early mornings before daycare opened, while my husband, Ethan Walker, told anyone who would listen that I was obsessed and detached and not maternal enough. But let me start earlier. Ethan's family had this unspoken but very real tradition. Walker women didn't outshine Walker men. His mom used to laugh when she said it, like it was a cute inside joke. Walker wives are the backbone, she'd say while passing mashed potatoes. We hold the house down so our men can fly. And when I first married Ethan, I tried to respect that tradition. I really did. I scaled back conference travel. I declined a lead author credit on a joint study because it would mean media interviews. I even turned down a promotion that would have required relocating to San Francisco. I told myself it was compromise. Marriage is compromise, right? Then our daughter Annika was born. And suddenly my world narrowed, in the most beautiful way. Milk-drunk smiles, that warm weight on my chest, the smell of baby shampoo in her dark hair. I was tired, yes, bone tired, but I was not unstable. I was building models at 2 a.m. while she slept in a bassinet beside my desk. And here's the thing, I published a paper during that first year of her life. A massive one. 3 years of research on predictive healthcare modeling for postpartum depression. Peer-reviewed, international journal. Ethan never read it. Actually, that's not true. He read the first paragraph and said, "Priya, this is intense. Are you okay? You've been really consumed by this topic." Consumed by research. Drop a comment if you've ever had your passion labeled as a personality flaw. The first time my niece, Mira, appears in this story, she's 8 years old and sitting cross-legged on my kitchen floor, building a Lego robot while I code at the table. She looks up at me and says, "Auntie Priya, Daddy says girls don't need to be math geniuses. Is that true?" Her father, my older brother Rakesh, had absorbed the same cultural expectations Ethan loved. Girls should be stable, soft, not intense. I remember kneeling down and saying, "Girls can be anything that requires a brain, sweetheart. And math absolutely requires a brain." She grinned like I'd handed her a secret. That was the first crack in the wall. The second crack came 3 years later. Ethan had started telling people I was erratic, that I worked all night and barely slept, that I was paranoid about data breaches and overreacted to minor stress. What he didn't tell them was that I worked nights because he refused to adjust his schedule. What he didn't tell them was that he once deleted an entire draft presentation of mine during an argument. Yes, deleted it. I had a keynote presentation for a regional healthcare summit. Months of work. Slides, data sets, simulations. We fought that night because I said I was going to attend a 3-day conference in Portland. "You care more about panels than your daughter," he said. I went to shower. When I came back, my laptop was open. Desktop empty. He'd accidentally cleared my external drive too. I felt my heartbeat in my ears, that roaring underwater feeling. He shrugged. "Maybe it's a sign you need to slow down." I rebuilt it from cloud backups, but I never forgot that moment. The casual dismissal, the quiet sabotage. Have you ever had someone destroy something you worked for and then call it fate? By the time Ethan filed for divorce, he had already built a narrative. Priya is brilliant but unstable. Priya is obsessive. Priya doesn't sleep. Priya is emotionally distant. He petitioned for primary custody of Annika. His lawyer used the word volatile. I sat there in a navy blue dress that suddenly felt too tight in the shoulders and listened to a man I once loved describe me like a malfunctioning machine. The second time Mira appears, she's 14, taller, quieter. She comes to stay with me for a weekend after one of my brothers' blow-ups about her wanting to join robotics club instead of dance. She sits on my couch, knees tucked under her chin, and whispers, "Maybe Dad's right. Maybe I'm too intense." That word again, too intense. I take her to my office downtown, show her the whiteboards covered in equations, introduce her to my team. Women and men who speak in code and probability. She watches me lead a meeting, calm and precise. On the drive home, she says, "You don't look crazy at work." It hits me like a slap. Crazy. Because that's what Ethan had started implying publicly. He told mutual friends I might need help, that he was worried. The custody hearing was supposed to be procedural, quick, boring. Instead, Ethan's lawyer presented printed screenshots of my late-night GitHub commits, emails timestamped 317A VOD M, Slack messages from international collaborators. "She barely sleeps," he said smoothly. "This pattern suggests manic productivity." I actually laughed. Not loud. Just this soft, disbelieving exhale. Then my attorney, a sharp woman named Laurel Bennett, stood up. "Your Honor," she said, "if we are evaluating mental stability through professional output, I'd like to submit Exhibit D." Exhibit D was my research paper, the same one Ethan called intense. Laurel walked it to the judge. The courtroom smelled faintly of old carpet and disinfectant. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. My palms were damp. The judge adjusted his glasses and began reading aloud sections of my methodology. Randomized, sample sizes, control groups, peer review acknowledgments. Then he read the publication date. "That was 6 weeks postpartum?" he asked. "Yes, Your Honor," I answered. He nodded slowly. "This is rigorous work." Ethan shifted in his seat. The judge continued reading. The conclusion, where I outlined early detection models that had already been adopted by 2 hospital networks. Then he said something I will never forget. "Ms. Shah-Ramanathan's work demonstrates sustained cognitive discipline, long-term planning, and collaborative leadership. I see no evidence here of instability. I see expertise." The silence after that felt like oxygen rushing back into a vacuum. But here's the thing. That wasn't the real victory. The real victory came months later. The third time Mira appears, she's 16. She shows up at my apartment with red eyes and a robotics competition flyer crumpled in her hand. "Dad says if I go to nationals, I'm choosing ego over family." Ego over family. The same script. Different girl. She looks at me and says, "How did you make them stop calling you crazy?" And something in me hardens. Not in anger, but in clarity. Because the custody ruling had granted joint custody, but I had done something else quietly in the background. I had documented every deleted file, every text, every email. I had separated finances meticulously, and I had bought a townhouse solely in my name before proceedings even began. Structural moves. Unarguable. That night, I called my brother and asked him to come over. The air smelled like rain through the open window. Mira sat at the kitchen table, silent. Rakesh arrived defensive. "This is between me and my daughter." "No," I said calmly. "This is generational." I laid out my published citations, media interviews, the court transcript where the judge praised my work. Not to boast, but to dismantle the narrative. "You told your daughter girls shouldn't be math geniuses," I said quietly. Ethan told a courtroom I was unstable for working at night. The judge read my research out loud and called it disciplined. "Which story do you want her to inherit?" Rakesh didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just looked at Mira, really looked at her, for maybe the first time. The room was so still I could hear the refrigerator humming. Then Mira did something I didn't expect. She pulled my published paper out of her backpack. Printed, highlighted, tabs on the side. "I read this," she said, voice shaking. "It's not crazy. It's brilliant." And that was the moment. Not the courtroom. Not the judge. That kitchen table. Because my calm return wasn't screaming or suing or destroying anyone. It was building something so solid that their accusations collapsed against it. Mira went to nationals. My brother attended. Quietly. He even clapped. Ethan eventually stopped using the word unstable. It didn't stick anymore. Too many people had heard the judge's words. Too many hospital systems had implemented my models. You can only gaslight someone until the lights come on. Have you ever noticed how powerful it is when you don't defend yourself loudly? You just let the truth stand? Now, every year on the anniversary of that court date, I reprint the first page of my research paper. I frame it, not because I need validation, but because it reminds me of who I was when everyone else tried to define me. Annika is older now. She keeps one of those framed pages in her room. Mira is studying engineering. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the Seattle rain taps against the windows, I run my fingers over the embossed journal seal on that paper. It's smooth, solid, permanent, just like the truth. If this story felt a little too familiar, if you've ever had your strength mislabeled as instability, share this with a woman who needs the reminder. And subscribe to Her Untold Revenge, because sometimes the most devastating revenge isn't loud at all. It's documented, it's undeniable, and it's yours.